And that's the big goal of this topic here, is driving up the passion.
Yeah, show me your craft. Like, what is your craft? What do you care about? I want to see it because I want to be inspired by the things that inspire you. Welcome, everyone, to the Home Life Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Haig, along with my beautiful wife and co-host, Annette.
Daniel is a former chef turned stay-at-home dad, and myself, a working nurse.
Our mission is to provide insights that will bring value to your home life. I'm going to start this episode off with a quote. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Howard Thurman. This quote, to me, beautifully embodies what we're about to talk about today. Episode 10 is going to be Show Me Your Craft, all about humans with their hearts on fire.
And the importance about the topic of passion is how vital it is for motivation and fulfillment within life, and also driving not only yourself as an individual, but others around you to pursue your purpose and their purpose as well, and positively impact others overall.
Yeah, how much more impacted are you by your experiences when you're connected with people who are within their form of whatever makes them fulfilled? And conversely, on the other side, when you think about how much you need to be in tune with your moments and those experiences to be able to really enjoy or appreciate somebody that's in their flow, if you will. So we're going to give a lot of examples here for us that we've experienced. And I want you to think for yourself, what have I experienced that I feel I was elevated within that experience because of the people that I was around or surrounded by?
Yeah, we're going to go into a lot of different topics around people who live their passionate lives, and I promise at the end it will all tie together and make sense. So speaking of personal experiences, that's a big topic we commonly discuss when we're out and about in the community. You can really feel the vibe of somebody who is really passionate and really cares about what they do. A big example is teachers. We all had those few teachers that made such a big impact on us. And would you say that those teachers were very passionate or not very passionate? It's very likely that they were very passionate.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a statistic that the average person only remembers like 1 to 3 teachers in their past because of the impact they had on them. And I can say from my experience, I remember 3 vividly. One of them, not for good reasons. 2 of them for very good reasons. So it just goes to show that these people were embodying, hopefully, what they meant to do. And especially as a teacher. Like, teachers don't get paid a lot. So they're doing it for the love of the kids.
And that, I hope, would reflect out into everything that you do in life, to be passionate about everything. And life is all about experiences moment by moment. So you definitely have to try it to know if you like it. Try it to know if you don't like it, and then use that as your compass as you navigate your way through life of what sparks passion within me that I enjoy. So for example, you could be a factory worker. Sure, you're probably not passionate about putting caps on bottles, would say, but you could be really passionate about getting in a flow state and kind of zoning out in a meditative process. So it's a good guide to go off of to give you that permission slip to go a different direction, possibly, or give you that permission slip to stay where you're at and expand upon it, knowing that, wow, this really is for me. I really do love this.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like that same example, that same individual could have their passion rooted in taking care of their family. So regardless of what they're doing for a job, they know that ultimately they want to care for their family, and that's what's driving them to do something that may seem mundane to others, but to them gives them complete fulfillment.
Yes, the overall goal is to follow what you are most passionate about, and that'll ripple positivity onto others and help direct your path as well.
Which we recognize is obviously something difficult. Not a lot of people are absolutely 100% connected to what their passion may be or may not be. But it's all about the experiences, right? Which we go into so much because of how much those experiences impact us. And that's a great example of somebody who kind of has had a path for her life in her mind. Like, she knows exactly who she is. She knows what she wants to accomplish. Whereas me, I've always kind of been more of a, let me try it to see if I like it type of person. So anytime I see somebody that's on the brink of mastery, let's say, it's such a big drive for me to pursue my passions because it's so interesting and so incredible for me to witness that. It's not the achievement, but the attainment of what feels like purpose in people's lives that have that direct link to what they feel like they're meant to do, that really ripples in my life and keeps me completely connected the majority of the time to the things that I feel like I want to do.
Yeah, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be a career. I think throughout most of your life, you're always transitioning from one section to another to possibly get to where you want to go at the end of the destination. But for example, when we were in Kauai one time, we went to this hole in the wall burrito place, and we had this kid who was maybe 20, the best service and experience with an individual I've ever had in my life. And although we ordered a $20 burrito, it was such a memorable experience that actually sparked the idea of this podcast based on how passionate he was, how calm he was, how nice he was, how well he interacted with us just to get a $20 burrito. And if you think about some of your best days, it's likely that you were surrounded by really nice, kind, and passionate people with whatever it was they were doing in the moment.
And that's another great example of, I doubt that this gentleman, his name is Catan, by the way, which I asked at the end of our interaction. Yeah. I doubt that he was super passionate about serving people burritos, right? Mm-hmm. But he just exuded this calmness and a vibe, if you will, that like, I'm going to paint this picture a little bit more for that experience because of how impactful it was. And like little moments of impact happen all the time, but this is just one we're going to highlight. We get in line at this very busy place that just opened, and they are getting crushed, right? There's people in line, probably 20, 30 people in line, and we come up to the window and we kind of feel rushed, and he just calms us down. He's like, hey, no, take your time. What do you want? And we asked, what do you recommend? He's like, I like this. I like this. Do you like this? And we're like, oh yeah. And he just very smoothly held our hand through the experience, if you will. It gave the whole dynamic so much more enjoyment because I just felt like we were vibing, you know what I mean? Like our group was vibing with him, and he's like, you guys are cool. Don't worry about it. You take your time with the menu. Let's think about this. We're chill. No one's stressing out. We're all good. And just being able to hold that demeanor through chaos is inspiring, because then the next time you're stressed, you're going to be like, oh man, I remember when he was crushed.
Yeah.
He was
or
fine.
It's impossible to have a bad day after that experience. So overall, with all your encounters in life, if you're around one passionate person to another who's super nice, super kind, love where they're at and what they're doing, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a bad day. You're probably going to have a really good day.
Yeah. And the whole goal is like, when it comes to the whole passion concept, it's pursuing what you think you should be able to do or what you believe is your purpose in life, regardless of your fear of criticism or fear of what other people might think. Because I myself tend to have outlandish dreams, so much so that I don't want to express those to people because they may put me down in a sense and give me a mindset that I don't want to be beholden to. So instead, I generally keep those aspirations to myself so that way I am not confined by the pessimist.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important to stay in a positive mindset as much as possible. And when you're doing something that you're passionate about, usually you're in a positive mindset. And now that's not to shut out all the very complicated human emotions, but I do think there's a difference if, for example, say you lost your job. That's probably really sad. That's probably really awful. That's going to bring up a lot of those complex emotions that humans get to have. And there's a difference between a negative mindset of feeling worthless and a positive mindset, oh, what did this teach me? And how could I use this to my advantage moving forward? So that's the idea of driving home passion to stay in a positive mindset with yourself, with your family, and with everyone around you. Another good example of kind of following your passion is when I was younger, I liked to watch Jerry Springer, if anybody remembers what that is. And the part I liked about it was when the children would get disciplined. It was this military boot camp setting. And I always had this allure to, I almost want to be bad just so I can go to boot camp and do that. Because I thought the discipline and the structure and the guidance and the workouts and kind of that grittiness I really admired, which is so funny because then I ended up joining the military and I loved it.
When I was a kid, I would also watch Jerry Springer. And I remember when I was like 11 or 12, I told my parents, I was like, you guys need to send me to military school. I need that, because I could just recognize, like, I just have an affinity towards not making the best decisions. And I was kind of a punk kid. So it was something I knew at a young age would have benefited me. I did not join the armed forces. I did, however, in later years join MMA and start doing a lot of CrossFit, which was my way to express myself.
Yeah, and a lot of what we talked about with your passion was in the last episode, speaking about your culinary journey and how from the young age of 5, you were always very interested in the culinary artistry. I don't think you can ever master that because there's always more, more, more. And it's so subjective as well. So that was your biggest passion, and that showed in the last episode. We talked about how you went from never working in a restaurant before to being a line cook, and then all of a sudden you're the head chef. So that's a great example, too, of following your passion.
Yeah, and also for me, I've always been super connected to the restaurant world and the cooking world, and just I've had an affinity to see restaurants and the way that they do things and be inspired by that and have that inspire me. Whenever we go on vacation, I'm the person that tends to like look really deep into like, oh, what's the fine dining restaurant scene? Like, can we go check this place out? Like, who's the chef and what's on their menu? Because whenever somebody's like portraying their creativity, I feel like food is a great canvas for that, because it shows that whoever's making that food cares, whether they're taking something super complex and making it attainable for the average person, or they're taking something super simple and just elevating it to make you appreciate it that much more.
And something that I learned was, you hear about Michelin star restaurants. I always thought, oh, it's just the chef that cooks really well. But no, it's the entire shebang, from the aesthetics to the hostess to the team to the chef. The chef plays, I feel like, a really small part in all of that. Actually, I don't want to say small because I'm sure they do a lot.
Very integral part.
Very integral. Actually, probably can do it without the chef, but you get the idea, where that Michelin star is the entire team. It's not just one person.
But the concept behind somebody with that much drive and passion that literally dedicates their entire life to this restaurant is so inspiring because of what goes into it. Like Annette said, it's a team. They have to create this like unified family with all the same vision. And in anything you do, how hard is it to find people that have similar visions or care about what you're doing half as much as you care about it? So those restaurant dynamics are super cool.
Yeah, and that's what I love about subjectivity, is that not everyone wants or likes the same exact thing. Everyone is so different. Everyone has a different fingerprint. Everyone has multiple different birthdays, different characteristics, that the goal isn't to be robots that all like and do the same thing, right? So that's where it gets a little tricky with finding your path of what you like to do. And a good exercise is, if you think of, say, one of your favorite mentors and you list maybe 3 key things that you really like about them, I bet you have those traits as well. And even if, like I said, it's not career related, there's certain avenues of going down in the road of life that are passionate to you. Like, for example, I wanted to do this podcast because I feel like I have a lot of thoughts going in my mind, but I don't convey them well. And this podcast is for me to kind of push that edge, for me to pronounce my words better, to convey my thoughts better, to increase communication, because that really excites me. And as a nurse, communication is huge.
Yeah. Plus, it's a form of expression that we get to kind of give out to the people as our contribution, if you will, in some capacity. For me, I feel like, again, I like to try things. I'm an exposure by doing it type of person, where I want to, if I feel interested in something, I'm going to try it at a minimal level. And then if I become interested, I then tend to get hyperfixated on it, where I'm like, ooh, I want to get really good at this. Not quite to the mastery stage where I'll dedicate a lot to it, but I will go through.
That's relative.
Relative.
To me, I would feel like you are at the mastery stage for a lot of things compared to most people.
Yeah, I will get kind of real deep in. I'll spend 3 days like doing nothing but absorbing a specific type of content. But
yeah.
Well, when it comes to like the whole podcasting situation, I've always been super drawn to vloggers, to podcasts, to people who are putting themselves out there, because of how difficult it is to convey your message and to be yourself, because of the fear that we're all driven by, right?
Yeah, I think our very first time recording the podcast, even though we weren't recording live or anything close, I couldn't speak. It felt like my vocal cords shut down, freeze, social anxiety. I don't know what happened. So the goal is, the more and more you do something, the more confident you'll get, and the more you'll be able to see if it's something that's a good fit for you. And kind of my way about finding the passion is, I'm kind of chameleon-like. I try something that somebody else is doing to see if I like it. It's hard for me to push out and find something new. So, for example, when I joined the military, that wasn't me going to the recruiter's office. That was a friend going into the recruiter's office. I was like, oh, I could see that. I could see myself doing that. And there's a famous commercial from the 90s that's anything you can do, I can do better. So I kind of take that as like, oh, I want to do that too. Let's play. Who can do this better? And it's like a playful, competitive aspect, but I also see that as my gateway to try something. Same thing for when I became a nurse. I got out of the military. My bachelor's was in health science. I think I was taking a public health class that was not the funnest class for me. And I wanted something different. And I just went, same thing, went to a friend at their guidance counselor meeting. Their path was to become a nurse. I'm like, oh, I could see that. I could see myself doing that.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
I kind of have this like chameleon way of matching, competing to see if I like it or not.
Yeah, and if you think about that, because we're so driven by our growth mindset, whenever opportunities present themselves, we are avid learners and interested in such a wide variety of things that those things inspire us. And we're like, oh, well, why wouldn't I want to try that? I've always loved the correlate to the movie Yes Man, where it's like, I want to have the yes man mentality.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
do you
you
want to
love
learn
that
Korean?
movie?
Yes. Do you want to go, skydiving tomorrow? Yes. Why would I not? Because
Right.
that experience, again, is going to have a benefit to me in some way, even if it's something that I'm scared of. Similarly, if it's something that I don't necessarily have an interest in doing, I'm still inspired by the fact that somebody dedicated so much time to doing it. Ballet is a great example of this. Like, I think it's a beautiful artistry, but I am not, drawn to be a ballet dancer, even though I respect what they do. Right. And
But
same
it's really cool. That's why people go to shows. They don't go to shows because they all want to be dancers. They go to shows because they see the passion in every single movement. That's what people pay big money for, is the passion in the acting, the passion in the dancing, the passion in the artwork. And that's the big goal of this topic here, is driving up the passion.
Yeah, show me your craft. Like, what is your craft? What do you care about? I want to see it because I want to be inspired by the things that inspire you. Even if it's not exactly the same type of expression, I can take that and then make it my own. You don't know unless you try, right? So we're avid believers that you got to get out there and try stuff.
Now, good ways of showing your passion, of course, when you wake up in the morning, day-to-day encounters with other people, at your work, at your school, interactions in general. But another really cool opportunity to take advantage of that we couldn't take advantage of when we were younger is social media.
The funny thing about social media is it's something that you don't really know that you're passionate about it until you kind of get into it. I've always been super interested, but anytime I put a phone up to my face and I start talking to a camera, you're weird. It's hard and you're awkward. You don't like your voice, you don't like the way you look, you don't understand how to edit. But through trial and error and through that practice of doing it, you really learn whether or not it's something you're interested in or not. I've always been interested in the concept of it, and it wasn't until I really started diving into the whole embodiment of the character, the type of person that is a vlogger or is a podcaster, that we really excelled in that concept.
Yeah, and for me, I always use social media as a platform for connecting with friends and family. I did join the military when I was 19, so I was disconnected from so many people. And the social media aspect was my way to feel like I was checking in with my friends without necessarily seeing them or talking to them on the phone. So then when it comes time for my 10th year high school reunion, I feel like we're cutting out that superficial layer of conversation that most people don't like. And we're getting right into like, hey, you're up to this. How's that going? And it just makes it feel more of a deeper connection. Another thing that I always did when I was younger is those old school boom boxes and making mixtapes. I always liked in movies how you would have the epic scene of the song with the scenes, with the way it makes you feel. And I actually use social media a lot to convey that to my friends and family as well. It's like, this is what's going on in my life. This is the funny take on it. This is like the embodiment of what I feel right now. So when they're looking at it, it's just not a Dear Diary. It's like, oh, I'm hoping that they're feeling what I'm feeling and we're vibing.
Yeah, and you can express yourself again. Yeah, we had a recent post about the 52nd annual Iditarod race, and one of the first comments was, "Who cares?" Which we can look at.
Cares.
We can look. We're then like, okay, well, technically, nobody cares about anything, right? So,
and then I felt bad about the other comment. It was about how it's animal abuse. People aren't going there to cheer on animals being abused. They're seeing these happy dogs that love to run, and it was very positive feeling. So apparently I didn't convey that well, but you can't make everybody happy.
Can't make everyone happy. Yeah, it's kind of like that Eleanor Roosevelt quote where people are going to judge you regardless, so you might as well do what you want.
Yeah, and I work as a nurse in mental health. So a lot of my patients, they're not going to communicate well. Who does when you're not getting sleep, when you're in a lot of pain, when you're having a lot of mood swings in general? You're not going to communicate well. And I understand that. So if I do have somebody yell at me or say rude things to me, my only return is compassion and advocacy for them. And what is it that they need in this moment? And I'm very passionate about transmuting those conversations. And last week I had two of my patients almost put me on this pedestal for like 2 to 3 minutes during a phone call of how thankful they were for me. And I don't need that to continue, but it almost brought me to tears because it just is such a relief that they're recognizing what I'm doing and how impactful it is for them.
And how impactful is that for you as an individual to know that what you're doing? It's kind of like a cool experience for Annette to be connected with her clients and to have them express to her that they were brought value by the things that she was expressing and the way that she was portraying herself.
All derived from passion.
Yeah. Which, in that same vein, talking about passion on social media, as many of you may know, I'm a CrossFitter. And I've mentioned that many, many times.
He'll probably say it every single episode.
Probably just so you guys remember, There's two things that people talk about, being vegan and being a CrossFitter. But anyway, I have been in the sphere and interested in all things CrossFit for 12, 15 years. I was really fortunate today that our local gym hosted a weightlifting seminar with a multi-time games athlete named Elijah Muhammad, Easy Muhammad. Really cool because I got to meet somebody that I looked up to a lot. And I even told him, I was like, during my early 20s, you were part of a large group of people, games athletes, that inspired my direction in life.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a quick, fleeting comment, but just so that I could express to him my gratitude and how happy I was to meet him was something that was really impactful for me and hopefully shared with him, because little did he know that his path was paving the way for somebody totally random across the world. Didn't even know. Yeah.
It's incredible.
And then I got to meet him today and work out with him, and it was just really cool to be able to share that. So that's why for me with social media, the ability to express yourself and the ability to be inspired by others is absolutely limitless.
And what was the nonprofit organization that you were saying he was up here for?
So he was expressing to us this story about how he got involved with FYR, which stands for Forging Youth Resilience. He had Project Onyx, and he was paving this path to help underprivileged kids get into a gym and be a part of a larger community. And Forging Youth Resilience, the company, reached out to him that they wanted to work with him. So what they do is they bring these underprivileged kids to a camp in Colorado, and they give them an experience of a lifetime where the kids get to work out together. They get to have connections with brothers.
Let me guess, he's probably really passionate about what he does.
He's super passionate.
And let me guess, that probably changes a lot of people's lives and has an impact on them.
Yeah, and he talked about how he practically adopted like 30 kids because he's taking kids from like the inner cities and that live in the ghetto and bringing them to this place where they can express themselves.
That's so beautiful. And there's also such a good expression with exercise in general. You're literally increasing the blood flow to the brain, and think about how impactful that is for you when you just get blood flow. Where focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah, so we're going to put a link to his nonprofit if you want to donate, just because I think it's such a beautiful, worthy cause, and it's a great example of somebody who's living their passion and trying to share what they've grown with the world.
Yes, that's definitely beautiful. And if you think of every nonprofit, I feel like the foundation is somebody who's very passionate about something. And some of the biggest changes that have ever happened in the world is all derived from passion. No one invents sanitation systems and the computers because they don't like the subject, right? So Bill Gates, very passionate, loves what he does. I would like to know of one person in your life, if you can think of one person that did something incredible, but they weren't passionate about it. Well, I don't know. Let me think about it. Nothing comes to mind.
It's a separate podcast.
Yeah, I draw a blank. It'd be a blank podcast.
Yeah.
So imagining a day filled with passionate interactions and just illustrating in your mind how embracing passion can transform one's perspective and empowering individuals to pursue meaningful endeavors. So I just want to paint a picture. Say there's this little girl and she wakes up. She's about to start her day. And not everybody wakes up saying, I want to have the worst day ever, right? You wake up pretty optimistic. You want to have a good day. She encounters her parents who are really passionate about what they're doing. She goes to school, encounters a passionate teacher. She sits next to her friend who's really passionate about this like coloring project. They go to the store or out to eat after work, surrounded by really passionate people who love what you're doing. That's completely embedding this map of her sense of reality to be positive. It would be really hard to have all those interactions and kind of think negative against all of those. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the whole goal is increasing vibration, increasing positivity, focusing on passion. And like I said, it's not to get rid of all the complicated human emotions of feeling sad or angry or upset, but it's to drive home the idea of how you can influence other people and how you can be your own hero as well.
Yeah, and if you were to think back into your past and think about how your parents were and how they lived and how that impacted you, whether that was good or bad, we can all imagine a world where our parents lived with passion. They passionately loved each other. They passionately loved their jobs. Mm-hmm. And granted, absolutely, this is kind of a Pollyanna perspective of, eternal optimism. But if we can all be the change that we wish to see in the world, that's kind of the whole goal, in my opinion, of being a person, is we have the capability and the capacity to express ourselves. We're very fortunate to be where we're at, where we can talk to this microphone, give our thoughts to whoever cares to listen.
Yeah, and just think about something you can do today, whether it's that permission slip to realize that, hey, I thought I didn't like this job, but actually I really like this, and this about it. So now you just feel better going to work. Or it could be, I really don't like the way this friend does this. That's probably, I need to prune that relationship. So it's about focusing on your inner compass. And usually if you follow things that really light your soul on fire, that's the path you want to go down, right? We've all had that feeling where you were maybe offered something bad when you were younger and you just had this gut feeling like, oh, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. This feels heavy. I don't want to go down that path. And that probably served you really well.
For us, when we emphasize that passion serves as a permission slip to break out of the mundane routines, it gives us fulfillment. Even if we're not fulfilled in every aspect of our life, we're fulfilled in every moment because we know we're driven to a larger collected goal.
Mm-hmm. Also, what's really funny though is I feel like this is really common is, say I get home from work and I'm just tired and I think, okay, I want to get home and I want to show up for my family and I'm going to be the best mom today. I'm going to crush it. And I instantly get home and something happens and at the end of the day I'm like, dang, that did not go the way I wanted it to go. So that happens all the time. But the main point is there, the focus is there, the goal is there. So, shoot for the moon and you're going to get somewhere close.
Land among the stars. But also, just to kind of double back on that concept, we live in a grind culture where it's kind of like, go work your 8-hour job, and then you got to spend 10 hours after work working on the thing that you love to do. Mm-hmm. Whereas you need balance in life. We have to give ourselves grace, and we have to know that not everything can be done today, but every day you can take a small act that can put you on the path, that can launch you down that trajectory to a distant horizon that you want to live on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and another good thing to think about is a lot of people can go from 0 to 60 really fast with all the things they have to do.
100.
Or maybe they stay at 0, who knows? But have you ever tried going from 60 to 0 just as fast? It's hard. It's hard to slow down. It's hard to be quiet. It's even harder to sit with yourself. It's way easier to distract yourself. So also just be considerate if you need a time in your life where you're at a standstill. It's not bad. It's not like I need to get out. I don't like this. And you probably will feel that way. But just if you need to sit with yourself, you got to do it. Sit with yourself and see what comes up.
I only go 0 to 60 when I see cops. 60 to 0. I only go 60 to 0 when I see cops.
Nice. All right. So that wraps up this week's episode.
We'll post a link in the description for Elijah Muhammad's nonprofit, FYR, which is Forging Youth Resilience. We really want to help his cause and celebrate the fact that people living with passion inspire us. And we want to inspire you to inspire others in your community.
Yes. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. And if there was anything that you did, please reach out to us on social media. We're at Home Life Insights on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, please tag us, send us a message. We want to be able to share the passionate feelings as much as possible.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
For you is, I have no idea because I lost my train of thought. Wait for it.
And it was just a queek.
You're really selling this.
I couldn't remember what's it called.
You're driving that point home for sure.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Everyone's confused.
I know.